Today we're going to be covering how to do a sequenced tile puzzle. So this is any puzzle where you have a series of tiles that you want activated in a certain specific sequence in order to solve the puzzle. So for this particular one, we only have 4 tiles, and what it's tied to is this locked door. So if you successfully complete the sequence in the proper order, the door will unlock. If you don't, you get punished. And specifically for this one, the punishment doesn't just include the person stepping on the tile, it includes anyone inside this zone. Now the zone is hidden, so the players, all they see is just the tiles and the door. And if you were doing a version of this where it was a secret door, then all they'd see is just the tiles. It's very simple to set up, and this is reconfigurable, and I'll show you how so that you can make the sequence longer, shorter. The only thing that this can't do, you could do this with pictures, like I'm doing here with these runes, or you can do it with a sequence of numbers or a sequence of letters, like a password. But ironically, that example I just gave you, you can't use, because the only thing this doesn't work with is repeated characters. So in password, there's a pair of S's, and this doesn't work for that because all of the tiles have to be in a specific sequence. And so the 2 S's would have to be in a specific sequence, which would be confusing to the players, to say the least. But apart from that, this will work just fine. And all you need to do when you want to customize this is you just grab the tiles and just change their order, right? And now you've changed the sequence. So redoing this for a different sequence or a different puzzle or whatnot is very easy to do. And as far as changing the symbols on the tiles, in my module, I've included a series of tiles with all the numbers 0 through 9, all the letters of the alphabet, and a bunch of runes. So you can redo this puzzle using numbers or a word, as long as the word doesn't have any repeat letters in it, or rune symbols, or you can replace them with your own graphics if you want. So this is very easy to customize for your specific scenario. So for setting this up, we have the door, and the only thing about the door is that it's locked and that the door has a tag on it, so that it can be referenced by the final tile, which will unlock the door, unsecret the door, or whatever. Now, of course, this puzzle doesn't have to be done with a door. You know, the end goal could be something else that you could trigger, but in this example, we're doing it with a door. So the very first tile is very, very simple, because the first tile, nothing can ever go wrong on the first tile. Oh, I'm not on the first tile. I reordered them and I forgot. So let's put these back around. And actually, before I show you the mechanics, I'll show you how it works. So you can see if you step on a tile, it highlights, and all it does is just tint it green to highlight it. And then the next tile, and then the next tile, and the next tile, and that opens the door. And the tiles are all now disabled, so you can step on them again, nothing happens. Now I reset the puzzle, and if I step on a wrong tile, so let's say I get the first one right, but then I get the next one wrong, all right? It triggers a saving throw, roll the saving throw, and it damages everyone inside the zone. And then the puzzle automatically resets so they can try again. Okay, so that's how the puzzle functions. Now let's show how we get that to work. So on the first tile, it's very simple. When something enters the tile, and technically you don't need to have this landing in here because there's only one triggering event, which is a tile token entering it. So you could do this without the landing and just have these 3 lines. I put the landing in because I was building the puzzle as I was figuring it out. And so I will put in extra landings and things. So because I'm not sure what I'm going to need and what I'm not going to need. And this doesn't hurt anything. So we add a tag. Actually, I should mention all of the tiles are tagged. They all have the tag tiles. So if I want to do a universal command to all of the tiles, I can do that, like when I'm resetting the puzzle, for example. And then each of the tiles is also named tile 1, tile 2, etc. And also up here, we have the named one. And that's just to make it easier for you to figure out when you're looking at the tiles and you're working on the tiles. You got tile 2, got tile 1. It's very easy for you to figure out which tile is which is important. So we add a tag to the tile itself. It tags itself tile 1 active. And that's how the puzzle knows which tiles have been triggered and which haven't. And then we just change the tint on the tile using the alter command. And this hex code here is for bright green. So we just change texture.tint on this tile. And that's how we visually highlight that a tile has been activated. You could also activate a light source or an animation or any number of other things. In this particular case, just going with something simple, and it works. And then finally, we deactivate the tile so that it can't be re-triggered or causing confusion or anything. For this particular tile, if you didn't deactivate the tile, it wouldn't matter. But just, it's a good idea in these types of puzzles, deactivate your tiles after they've been triggered so that players can't trigger them again and cause unexpected results. So that's all you got to do for tile 1. And then tile 2, again, it's tagged with tiles and tile 2, naming itself. And we name it 2. Then we come in here and we check entity count. And what we're checking for is how many entities have the tag tile 1 active. All right. If that number is more than 0, then we're good to go. We can carry on down to the rest of the code. If the number isn't more than 0, which means tag tile 1 hasn't been activated yet, then we go to fail. All right. So if tile 1 is active, then we come down here and we add an active tile to tile 2. We add the tint to tile 2 to visually show that it's active, and then we shut the tile off. If there isn't an active tile 1, then we go to trigger the zone, and the zone contains the code for punishing people and resetting the puzzle. Now, for any tiles beyond the second tile, all you do is copy paste the tile and change a couple of numbers, right? The final tile has some unique code in it, and the very first tile is unique. But all the tiles in the middle, they're simple copy pastes with some renames in them. So if we open up tile 3, as you can see, it's named 3 instead of 2. And under the tags, it's tile 3 rather than tile 2. And then in the actions, you change the entity count. Instead of counting tile 1 actives, you're counting tile 2 actives. And the tag you add is tile 3 active instead of tile 2 active, right? So if you were to add in a 4th tile in here before the last tile, and you would name it tile 4, you would tag it as tile 4, you would change this line is tile 3 active, and you would change this line to tag itself as tile 4 active. So that's how you add in extra tiles. So you can customize this and make the sequence as long as you want. And then for the very last tile, it's again, it's numbered for however many tiles there are. So another thing is if you insert extra tiles in the middle, then obviously you would need to change the number of the final tile. And also down here, we have its tags set. And then in here, it's basically the same as the intermediary tiles, with the difference being is there's some extra code in here for unlocking the door, triggering whatever your success criteria is. So it adds the active tag to itself, which honestly it doesn't need to do. That was just copied over from previous tiles, but it also doesn't harm anything either. It highlights itself. It then changes the door state to open. You could also change it to, where is it here? From secret to regular door. Or if it's just a wall, you could just change the wall to none. And so the wall would still be there, but it would be invisible to the players and it wouldn't impede their movement or hearing sounds or anything like that. So effectively, the wall will be gone. So if you wanted to do it that way. It sends out a chat message, success. You could also add in, some sound effects or whatnot if you wanted. Then it deactivates itself. And again, it also does the same standard check. Is the previous tile, tile 3, active or not? And if it's not, then you come down here to fail, which triggers the zone for doing the punishing. So that's all you got to do for the setting up of the tiles. And the reason why it only checks, is the previous tile activated? It doesn't check to see if the one before that was activated, the one before that, is because each tile in a sequence checks if the previous tile was activated. So you don't need every tile to check the entire sequence. All you need is for the tile to check the one before it. So it doesn't matter what order they step on the tiles. If they don't step on them in the proper sequence, the trap will trigger, and then the puzzle will reset and go again. So it's very simple and very easily reconfigured and expanded if you want. Now, as far as the damage dealing zone, this one has the tag zone so that it can be called from the other tiles. And then it sets the damage. And as I've mentioned in past videos, the reason why we set the damage variable rather than rolling the damage further down is because the way it works in 5th edition D&D is when a damage source happens, everyone takes the same damage. Like a saving throw, you may take half damage, but the base damage is always the same. So we need to set the damage before we do anything else, so that later on when we assign the damage or half the damage, we're always working from the same base damage and it's not rolling differently for different people. So we set the variable on this tile for the variable damage. Now I'm using my customized damage setup, but you don't have to do that. If you're just setting this up for yourself and you want to do that, you can just put in here the roll formula inside double square braces and do your damage that way. This allows me to, when you double left click on the reset button, it'll come up and ask you what the damage formula is and what the damage type is. And you're welcome to use that if you want. But if you want just quick and dirty and easy, and you're just going to use the heal harm or whatever, then just put your damage formula in there. So then we do our saving throw. It's a dexterity saving throw. It's for all tokens within tile, not just a triggering token. It's all the tokens inside the zone. For this specific puzzle where there's, in this particular case, the way it was set up and the way the damage set up for is for lightning. So basically lightning bolts fire out or whatever. There's no animations on this one. I mean, you can flavor it however you like. It's a dexterity saving throw, DC 16. We bypass the dialogue just so this dialogue that we're bypassing is the one that comes up for the DM, not for the players. That allows the DM to customize the role. Generally, I find that's not necessary, and it's just an extra step the DM has to do, so I turn that off. You're welcome to turn it on if you want to allow the DM to say, for example, at the last minute, change the DC on the saving throw or whatever. You can put that in. We don't auto-roll because players don't like it. When you auto-roll, they like to be able to, even though all they're doing is clicking a button, it gives them the illusion of agency by allowing to click the button and do their own rolls. And we continue with all tokens in all circumstances. And then we come down here, we do a redirection based on the results. Past goes to past, fails goes to failed, and then we go down to continue afterwards. Now down here again, I'm using my custom setup where I tag the past or failed tiles and then send it to my damage dealing macro. If you're not using that, if you're just using heal harm, then you wouldn't do the tagger and you wouldn't do the run macro. You just put the heal harm in here, and the heal harm would either do your variable damage or it would do your variable damage divided by 2 if it's doing half damage. So just like I have in here, double curly braces for variables, and it's always variable dot and then the variable name. And then in this case, because they're the ones that passed, it's divided by 2. Whereas the ones that failed, they just do it just does the full damage. So if you're using heal harm, and I'll show you here, I'll actually do heal harm. Where are we here? Or heal hurt, I guess it is. So we're doing current tokens, right? Not triggering token and not all tokens in the zone, because current tokens is the group of either past or failed tokens. So we do current tokens, and then we do minus curly braces, variable dot, and the name of the variable, which is damage. And that would, when you're doing full damage, and then if you're doing half damage, you just put a /2 for divided by 2. Okay? And then you can have a chat message if you want for more detailed information coming up in here. Public role. There is no role. Your role was done back here. So there is no role. And then you would put it in here for passed, and you would put it here for failed. And then, you could throw in a sound effect in there if you wanted, or whatever you want. Although keep in mind that the sound effect, if you put them in here, or animations or whatever, they would repeat for every token affected, I believe. Or maybe it would, I'm not sure. So that's something you'd want to play around with and tweak, because you might get like a whole bunch of copies of the sound effect going, or it might do just one. I'm not sure. But regardless, even if it only triggered once for each group, it would trigger both for passed and for failed, assuming there's at least one person who passed and at least one person who failed. So you would still get duplications. So if you're going to do a sound effect, I do the sound effect up here after the saving throw, but before the redirect, or down here after all the saving throws are done and the damage is done, and you're now continuing on, through your animation or sound effect in there. I wouldn't put it in the passed and failed sections. All right, so I'm just going to take that out. And then when we continue down, after we've done the saving throws and we've dealt the damage, and we're resetting the entire puzzle so that the players can try again. All right. Now, where the reset happens is our reset button. And this is standard on my puzzles, and I always use this symbol so it's easy to recognize the reset buttons. A double right click resets the puzzle, and a double left click is how I customize damage. Now, obviously, you don't need to do that part if you don't want to, but for the reset, in addition to the automatic reset that it does every time the puzzle fails, when the puzzle succeeds, the whole puzzle shuts down. So if you want to be able to reset the puzzle to turn it back on again, you can manually do that from here. Also, if something goes wrong, somebody does something that puzzle wasn't designed to take into account, and it gets broken, and it's now like half activated or whatever. Anyways, if any manual situation where you need to reset it, you can also just double right click on here. Now, the way the reset works is, first off, we have the tag for the reset button, so they can be triggered by the other tiles. And then we come down here, and the double right click is for a reset. So this is the reset in here. It goes any tile with tile 1 active on it, it's that tag removed. Any tile with tile 2 active, and etc. Obviously, if you modify this puzzle and you add in extra tiles, you will need to add in extra removes in here to remove the extra tags from all of those. And then the door is reset back to locked. Now, again, if your door is not locked, it's secret. You would change that to secret, or whatever it is that your puzzle does when it succeeds, you would undo that. And then we remove all the tint from all the tiles, so they all go back to the regular color. And we activate the tiles because they all deactivate themselves. And that's it. That's all you need to do in order to reset the tile. All right. And so if you come in here and you step on them in the proper order, right? They highlight, and once it's highlighted, the tile is now deactivated. It doesn't do anything. So you can step on it again, go to the next one, step on it again, nothing happens. But if you step on them out of order, you get the saving throw. Everybody takes their damage, and then the trap resets. And if you succeed, the entire trap shuts itself off and the door unlocks, or the door opens, actually. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It's very simple to set up, but you can, of course, use it in very complex sequence puzzles, because these don't have to be like, this could be scattered all over the place, including like in different rooms all over the map. They could involve some cryptographic code to figure out what the order is. So there's all kinds of complexity you can add to this very simple mechanic. All right. Hopefully you found this helpful. This is included in my Traps and Puzzles module, which is linked down in the description. If you have any questions or you need any help or anything, my Discord is down in the description. You can hit me up, and my coffee link if you want to support what I do. Have a good one.